This is section 9.8, and the title of this, I believe, is Factor Completely. And so there's a couple of different topics here. As a reminder, our test is going to be on Friday of this week, which is the end of the marking period. It will be Scantron. All right, so it will be multiple choice. All right. Now, let's suppose I have an expression that looks like, let's say, 2x times y plus 4 plus 3 times y plus 4. Go ahead and sharpen your pencil. All right. This is not factor. What factoring means is I want something times something. That's what I mean. All right? And this is not something times something, it's something plus something. And so how do I convert this to two parentheses, where it's one parenthesis times another? All right. So I want you to learn the pattern first. I have 2x times y plus 4, and I also have 3 times y plus 4. So I'm going to write this as 2x plus 3 times the common factor, which is y plus 4. That's going from the top line to the second line, and now that second line is factor. I want you to think of FOIL for a minute and what we do in FOIL. Don't we do 2x times y, and then we do 2x times 4? If you look at the original problem, isn't it 2x times y and then 2x times 4? Okay. So now, let's look at the rest of FOIL in the second one. 3 times y and 3 times 4. And that's what this says. 3 times y and 3 times 4. So you're going to get the same answer. But that's how we factor. Let's try again. Let's try a different problem. And let's try, I don't know, 2x times x plus 1 plus x plus 1. Okay? Is there a number in front of this x plus 1? Is there a number there? What, that number is 1, isn't it? So now I can write this as 2x plus this one right here times common factor of x plus 1.
That's it. So there's never...
Go ahead.
Oh, she was
All right. So if I have 3y times 2x minus 3 minus 5 times 2x minus 3. See, the only way we can do this is to make sure that these two parentheses are the same. They have to be exactly the same, otherwise we can't factor this way. This is not factor, but now we'll factor that. What do you think it is? Tell me. 3y minus 5 is right. Times 2x minus 3, right? Perfect. Okay?
And that's all you get to do.
Mm-hmm. Question, Austin.
Are those two always going to be the same?
They have to be the same, otherwise we cannot factor this way. They will be the same in this lesson. Yes, Tyler.
So they'll always be the same.
They will be in this lesson. All right? If they're not the same, we cannot factor this way. but they will be in this lesson.
Can you still factor to get that though? Is there nothing? Is there a way you can?
Yeah, we'll talk about that much later. All right? Okay. So, now what we want to do, this is why this is useful. Let's try something that looks like this. X cubed plus 3x squared plus 5x plus 15. Now you notice when we've been factoring, maybe they have 2 terms, maybe they have 3 terms. Now we have 4 terms. So what we want to do is factor this factor by grouping. Okay? That's what this is called. The 3 examples I gave you over here on the left is an example of factoring by grouping. Now I want to do the same thing to the problem on the right. And when you talk about grouping, you're talking about parentheses. So let's do this. Let's put parentheses around the first 2. Parentheses around the second 2. Notice I left that plus on the outside. That's our first step. Any questions? Okay. Now, look at the first parenthesis. What do those 2 terms have in common? X squared. Perfect. So let's factor that out. And what's in the parenthesis, Charlie? X squared times what is x cubed? Not 3, but just x. And then we have the 3 on the second one, because x squared times 3 is 3x squared, right? Everybody see what I did in that first parenthesis? Let's do the same in the second parenthesis. What do those 2 terms have in common? A 5. So we'll factor that out, and I get x plus what? 3. You see where we're going to go from here now? Sure. Just like I did over on the left side, this becomes x squared plus 5 times the x plus 3. So when you're given 4 terms, this is how we factor. It's called factoring by grouping. Let's do another one. Let's try this one. Y squared plus y plus yx plus x. 4 terms. We look to factor by grouping. Somebody tell me what's the first thing we do? Parentheses. And where do I put the parentheses, Sid?
After the y squared plus y.
Okay.
Or another one is after the plus.
After the plus. Perfect. What does that first parenthesis now have in common? What do those 2 terms have in common?
Y.
So let's factor that out. And what do I get inside the parentheses, Sid? Y plus,
Y. Or 0.
not 0, 1.
1.
Y times y is y squared?
Oh.
Yeah, and then you'll need the 1 there. Plus, and what do the second ones have in common? So we'll factor that out, and I get y plus 1, sure. Okay? Follow me so far? All right? Now let's factor that. And how does it factor? Y plus x times y plus 1. All right? Any questions? All right? It is, but here's a little twist. Let me see what you guys can do with x cubed minus 6 plus 2x minus 3x squared. And we want to factor this. Now, I'm going to get you started because I'm going to do the second second line for you. Say it. What do you do, Luke? Put them in order. Yes, absolutely. Put them in order first so that we have x cubed minus 3x squared plus 2x minus 6. Now you take it from there. No, I'll give you a minute. Does anybody want to come up to the board and do it, Luke? Come on.
I'll try my best.
Go ahead and try it while he's doing it. Shouldn't negative 6 what? No, we put it in order first. I put it in order from the highest exponent first. You put the x cubed first, and then we put the x squared, and then we put the x, and then we put no variable.
Do you have the marker? Thank you. Wait, no, I did this.
All right, what Luke is doing, first of all, he grouped the first two, put them in parentheses, and then he looked like he took out an x squared, and he's right.
Oh boy.
But,
Make it sound like I read.
okay, it's all right.
We always do that. Okay.
Oh yeah,
Put the sign plus,
add in the 2, we factor out as x minus 3.
all right, notice, I want you guys to notice how those two parentheses now are the same. Very good, Luke.
Thanks.
Okay?
Can you go over that?
Well, did you understand what we did here?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we did here. We put parentheses around the first two, and we put parentheses around the second two. Then you tell me what we did.
Then we factored the x squared.
We took out an x squared of the first parenthesis, and what do we factor out of the second?
2.
Okay.
Okay, so I got it.
All right. Okay, now. There's just one little trick on this. When you factor, you always have to put them in order. Let's take a problem that looks like a cubed plus 3a squared plus a plus 3. Let's change that a little bit. Let's make this minus a minus 3. All right. I'm going to rewrite this again. A cubed plus 3a, all right, minus a and then minus 3. Yeah, squared, thank you. I know it's the same thing. Now, let's group. And group means to use parentheses. And where do we put parentheses? And Sydney, how did you say it? You put parentheses around the first two? And then
Or
what?
minus.
And then you put the parentheses after the,
After the sign.
all right. When you put parentheses in back of the minus sign, this is what you have to do. The plus, we had no problems here, none at all. But if you put the parenthesis,
So you have the negative, so you want to put it before the negative.
what you have to do, close, what you have to do is you have to change that sign to a positive
Automatically.
automatically. Okay? Now what I have is, I'll factor out an a squared minus, and I can't factor anything out of that, so I'm going to leave it as a plus 3. And then where do I go from there? A squared minus 1. Remember, there's a 1 there. Okay? So just remember, if you're going to put a parenthesis in back of that negative, you have to change that second sign. Okay? Does anybody see anything else I can do, Mario? Because you really weren't paying attention, were you?
I was.
Were you? Okay. So could you see anything else that we can do with that problem, that final line? Okay. So Zach will tell you. Zach? Pardon? You can do one more step. Colin, do you see anything? Okay, he said you could like defoil, you could foil that out to sort of check it, right? You can do that. But that can be factored a little bit further. We can yes, Summer.
To find out what A is?
No, we can't find out what A is. But we can factor that a little bit further. And I want to know if anybody notices anything. You can't factor out an A.
Factor out. Oh, A squared. So that is
What is it?
A.
No, I don't think so. But look, if you look at that first parenthesis, we have the difference of two perfect squares. This is A times A and 1 times 1. And that parenthesis can be factored as A minus 1, A plus 1. What happens to the middle term? They cancel out. And then I have A plus 3.
You have to do that?
Yeah, the name of this section is factoring completely, so we want to do that. If you see that,
So what if you do that for that?
you can't here because we don't have the difference of two perfect squares. 2 is not a perfect square. 1 times 1 is 1. Okay? Yeah, it's not plus, it's multiply, okay? All right. So we don't want to laugh. It's just,
It's just a nice
You always
all right. This is there's some more in this chapter, however. There's, I think we're just going to cover the first half of this chapter today. We'll finish the second part tomorrow. That leaves Wednesday and Thursday as a review for your test on Friday. Okay? So here's what I want you to do for your assignment for today. on page 610, it is a long lesson. I want you to do problems 3 through 21 all. Make sure we're writing out the problems. Make use of your class time. Get as many done as you can.